South by is really supportive of original filmmakers, and I think Madeleine Olnek is, an incredibly original writer-director, and giving people like her, people who are really taking risks with the types of films that they're making, both in like subject matter and style. It's just a great stage to give those films a chance and give those filmmakers a sense of validation. I really love what the movie does, which is, really show Emily Dickinson in her true light.
Emily Dickinson was this lesbian, radical feminist heroine, and we're really telling what's known to her in the public now is not correct, and Madeleine and I were interested in telling the true story, which has not been told.
I think people will question every single biography of a woman in history that they've ever read. That'll be one small takeaway, I think.
So without further ado, let's introduce the writer-director, Madeleine Olnek. Yes.
Thank you for staying.
And you have a full house
Group
with you if you want to bring them out. Yeah.
Yes. First, I would like to bring out Susan Ziegler, who I went to college with also, and who's been in my plays for many years, and played Susan Dickinson. Susan. She'll come out later. And next, wouldn't it be funny if person after person and no one comes out and they're all out on the streets cursing me. I would like to bring out the very special, here she is.
There she is.
Thanks for joining us. I'm sorry. Now I would like to bring out Amy Seimetz, who played Mabel Todd, and who was above and beyond amazing. I was so thrilled when she joined us. Next, I'd like to bring out Sasha Furlova and Dana Melanie, who play the young Emily and Susan. Come on out. Okay. This feels like a game show. I would like to bring out Jackie Monahan, who plays Lavinia Dickinson. And I would like to bring out Casper Andreas, who plays Joseph Lyman, and he's one of our producers, too. And Cynthia Kaplan, who plays Helen Hunt Jackson, the very talented Helen Hunt Jackson poet. Charles Rogers, who plays Samuel Bowles Jr. Joel Michaely, who plays Edward Dickinson. And I know there's a few more people. There's a few more people back there. I wish I was totally remembering everyone who came. Almost, yep, that's everybody who's, and of course I could not forget Brett Gelman, who played Thomas Wentworth Higginson in his red outfit. And Molly Shannon.
It's a lot.
Yes,
it's
it
great.
is. And Kevin Seal, who played Austin Dickinson. I didn't see him back there. Sorry, Kevin. That's why you needed a list. They gave me everyone's pictures. All right. Okay. So we have the cast here. We also have very, very quickly Max Rifkind-Barron, who is one of the producers, Anna Margarita Albello, another producer, Anthony Clemente, one of our editors, Anthony Faure, another associate producer, Carolyn Walters, who did hair, and I know we have a couple more people back there. Alex Peace, our line producer. And tell me who else. I can't even see who else has come. Come on down, and I'll introduce you.
If you're back there, just come out now.
Come on down.
Just,
Anna
if you're back
Margarita
there,
and
PAs, everybody.
All right.
Come on.
Come on.
Bring it down. Yes.
before we run out of time, and
Heck yes.
and Nick Diaz, many of you know today, and our composer, Carl Fried. Thank you so much.
Round of applause.
Yes, thank you all for coming out so I could see you. And Anna Stipko, the cinematographer.
All right. Madeleine, it was incredible.
Yes, and just be one last.
You're running the show.
Right.
You do this.
Also, a very special thanks. The movie was dedicated to this person who did the scholarship about Susan and Emily, and she is a native Texan, and she's here today. Just stand up and take a bow, Martha Nell Smith. Okay.
Well, with this incredible turnout, I wanted to just directly talk about casting. How did we find all these amazing people? How did you bring them together?
Well, there are a lot of people who I've worked with for a long time, and I had worked with Susan right after college. I was a playwright, and she was in all my plays. And Kevin also was in all my plays for years, and Cindy Kaplan also, and I had met Amy on the festival circuit. She was making films. We met like 10 years ago, and I had always wanted to ask her to work with her. And so a lot of people, I have these sort of long-standing relationships with a lot of the cast who've been in all my features and other films and plays. And then Carol Rosenthal cast from, I don't really have access or know young actors, so I was lucky that she brought on Dana and Sasha, because we shot part of it on the West Coast, and so it was really great to meet them both. So I can't see. I know I talked about Molly that we did comedy shows in college, and Molly brought on Brett. So we were really lucky that to have Brett join us, and I know, I'm sorry, it's just, I was so nervous. When I was coming here today, jumped in a cab and I said, take me to the Paramount Theater, I have my tech check. And the cab drove me to the Fairmont Hotel. And he was like, I thought you said the Fairmont. Anyway, so since that, I can't even think straight, and I'm shaking.
You're doing great. You're doing great. One of the things I thought was exceptional with the movie was the tone, and I wondered if you wanted to maybe tell us a little about that, like how you got everybody on that same page, because I thought it was exceptional.
Well, I think that Emily Dickinson's work and her life contained things that were both very serious and very humorous. She had a great sense of humor, but she also had these images that would really resonate in a way that was very profound. So I didn't want to do something that was just a straight up comedy. I wanted it to have that blend because of what the subject matter was. So in terms of getting everyone on the same page, I didn't tell anyone anything, so they just kind of floundered, and then they just...
But across the board, it was floundering.
Yeah, so everyone was floundering in the same way, and then that made us all on the same page.
Genius. That was genius. Does anybody in the cast have anything they want to add just about like trying to pull this together in terms of the floundering and the costuming and, you know?
I mean, it felt to me that the floundering was part of it.
Agreed.
And just that in the style of the whole thing, which I think really creates this singular tone in this movie that's just so amazing. So, yeah, no, it felt like that, but it felt like we were all floundering together. and it was clear the mission of what we were saying about Emily Dickinson. So, yeah, I mean,
I thought it was unanimous floundering, and it was amazing. It was great. One thing I did, I asked you about backstage, and you know, I'm not trying to drop a grenade on you here, but can we talk about the being a clever woman and the adversity of that generationally?
It's a terrible burden.
How do you feel like Emily dealt with that? I mean, I feel like that's really the tone you were striking, and I thought it was incredible.
I read this really interesting sentence in a book about her where it said, genius is no protection from its denial. Meaning, even though she was brilliant, having her work rejected and wasn't, it still felt like rejection. So it didn't. So I thought that was really interesting, and how how difficult that must have been.
And as you guys were researching this, the women involved, was this something that you were kind of running into consistently in terms of the cleverness of these characters and how they were dealing with the men around them?
Well, something I remember was while I was shooting it, I was also at NYU studying gender politics. And I remember realizing as I was studying sort of this era and then jumping into it and physically experiencing it, that even just something like getting into the wardrobe and realizing that you're in bloomers, petticoat, hoop skirt over that, shirt under your corset, your shirt over that, and then like maybe a bonnet or some kind of cool accessories, you actually can't fit through a door. And you have to work really hard just to move. And then on top of that, having a brain that's functioning beyond your circumstances, that like you're so oppressed from multiple angles, let alone like being able to physically navigate anything. And I just was so lucky to have that, my academics expanded by that physical experience, which, you know, you do labs in science, but you don't really do it in history. So that was really cool for me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's interesting.
I think it's so interesting that, you know, she had to be sold to the public as some spinster, virgin, recluse. And, you know, that narrative is still told a lot to this day. If you look at the cover of magazines, and Madeleine is just brilliant and a brave filmmaker. And I just think this is such an important movie. And I feel so important to be a part of it. I think Emily Dickinson was a, you know, lesbian, feminist heroine, and these LGBTQ stories need to be told more, and I feel tremendously lucky to be a part of this special, timely movie. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. For me, I just felt like there's a kind of like a resonant kind of casting where the qualities of the actor help you understand the person or the historical person. I feel like that's what happened in Milk with Sean Penn. People all of a sudden understood, a gay man can be a hero, you know, because he is such a active, you know, heroic kind of the stance he takes in terms of everything he does in the world. And I felt like if Molly Shannon played Emily Dickinson, people would finally understand who she was. So I felt so lucky, Molly, that you agreed to do the movie, because Molly has such a unique gift in terms of how she sees the world, and she brings it into every character she plays, so singular, just like Dickinson. So I was so thrilled you joined us.
Yeah, Molly, you did a great job, Molly. Can we talk a little bit about how comedy as a weapon here really disarmed a lot of the messaging that you were dealing with? Is that clearly you're good at this? This is comedy is something you've been doing for a long time. Were there any lessons you kind of learned in this process, or that you brought to the table to handle this narrative?
Well, I thought it was important to include comedy because I've noticed people don't like being lectured about feminism. It's something I picked up. So it has to be entertaining. And I also think it is really funny it's, of course, it's horrible, but it's also really funny that women are just like that. We just this continues to happen. You have to laugh because it's just it's so wrong. And if you don't laugh, like yeah. So I think it's ridiculous, and I thought it was so ridiculous. To me, it was a funny story. What was done to Emily Dickinson in some ways was funny, that it was so opposite of everything she was. So I just couldn't believe it at every turn, everything that I read. So the use of comedy is important, and it's also, I think comedy contains ideas, whereas drama often communicates an experience of feeling. Comedy is a form where you think about the ideas. And so this is sort of an intellectual journey we're trying to go on with the audience, and it's important that they have these things to think about. So.
And how did you you had to get some permission to use a lot of this work. How difficult was that?
Well, it just takes a long time. So it took a couple of years for us to get the permissions from Harvard. So that was nice. They were, Casper got us through Harvard, and they gave us permissions, and were very nice, but it did take a long time. At Amherst, they actually let us use those papers at the end. You saw some of Emily's letters to Austin, and they had us in 2 weeks, and they were just there and turning the pages for us, and it was kind of unbelievable to be like, wow, these are the actual letters. So that was, they want to encourage scholarship and people writing and thinking about Emily Dickinson. So, but you have to go through all the steps. So.
And I want to ask you about Amy's character. Did you see her as a villain at the onset of this, or was that something that just did that come up at all?
Kind of, yeah. But also, I mean, I was really obsessed with Emily Dickinson in college, but I didn't know this story. Mm-hmm. So when Madeleine came to me and asked me about it, I was like quoting Emily Dickinson and very excited about it, which is actually how Mabel Todd was like very obsessed with Emily. And I mean, yes, in a villain way of like rewriting history, but you have to understand the time of like, she was spinning a story to get Emily's poems out there. Because at the time, if she'd said, "Oh, she's also in love with her brother's wife, and they have a love affair," all these letters, then I don't think we would have known Emily Dickinson. So you can think of it. But yes, it is villanesque in a rewrite history sort of way. But also I really identify with her because I'm so obsessed with Emily. Because I also think like. Especially in that time, it's like, or at least the way I saw Mabel Todd is like, she was excited about another intellectual in town, and she thought of herself as an intellectual, and wanted Emily's approval because she was like the ultimate town intellectual. So, but she never got it. So,
nice. Well, let's give a round of applause to Wild Nights with Emily. Thank you, Madeleine Olnek. Thank you, cast and crew. This is up for an award, so make sure you fill out your ballots and drop those in the proper box.
Oh, thank you, and thanks to South by Southwest for presenting us. This is amazing. Thanks.
South by. Thanks, guys.